Hey Nippers, it's me, Wild Neptune, and in this Epic 7 video, we're going over 2 ice units that are going to be battling for your bookmarks, the limited unit Cerise, and Peira, the Ice Leaf. Now, before that though, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and follow me at Twitch, at twitter.com/wildneptune. All the support is appreciated. Now let's get going. We'll start off with Cerise. Now, Cerise has been out for, like, over 2 years now, I believe. She has gone from being a okay unit to, after her buff, being really, really good. And right now, she is good. So her stats are right here. You see them. And her speed is notable at 122, which is, by today's standards, maybe not be the fastest, but it's still faster than a lot of other units in the game. Her defense is not bad. Her crit chance, she has a little bit there too. A lot of people have used her on like high crit chance builds. S3 first is an AoE. It attacks with elemental advantage, which means that grass units are not safe from it. It will land a restrict and a speed down. So restrict means that the only way they gain CR is naturally through whatever their speed gives them. It also gives her an invincibility buff, which is that star right here. It means that any damage she takes is neutralized, but she can still be like crowd controlled or stun, sleep, blind, stuff like that, right? The S2 is a single target stun plus unbuffable on one target, obviously. It would also increase the CR by 50%. You can't really see it here because, you know, the way this training fight works, but she goes fast, and this will help it push even faster. And the S1 is a single target attack. As long as the S3 is unavailable, it will trigger a dual attack with a random ally. So there's somebody here, they would dual attack with her. Well, or not because of, you know, the training thing. But, it will also increase her CR by a small amount, right? And that's basically what she does. So, like I said, right now, she's a good unit. She's actually decently flexible in a lot of content. So let's get into what type of content she's being used in right now. So right now, we'll look at the expos right here. And the expeditions, very important to do them. If you're at a stage where you're getting them consistently and you're not doing them, you are missing out on a lot of rewards. So just quickly right here, see all the rewards right here. You can slow that down if you want to. They are going to make it easier for people to complete, which is very good. But you still need, like, you know, teams that are not totally Pepega, right? So the ones I use Cerise on are the dark one and the light one. You can use them on other ones too, I guess, besides the grass one. But the dark and light ones, definitely, she's especially strong in, depending on the rest of your team. So the dark one first. Well, my team is right here. So see, Falcon de Clary, Landy, Tamara, and Cerise. But Cerise here, really strong because she has that strip for the defense buff. She has the dual attack. So she can dual attack with like Flurry. So Flurry can CR push a little bit more. Landy for more CR push and damage. And even with Tamarin, she reduces the cooldown on her S3 by 1 more turn, which is really nice. But my team right here is Cerise, Ilyanov, Aiden, or Aden, whatever, and Zealot, Carmen, Rose. The Cerise, same thing as the Light Expo. I mean, it's a Dark Expo here, where the boss defense buff, she strips that off. Speed down is really nice. The dual attacks are nice too. So, yeah, very strong in both of them. Not necessary to have her, of course, for them, but will definitely make your life a lot easier if you get her. Now, of course, there's also defenses. And first, we'll go over some Guild Wars defenses. Now, Cerise is still being used on a decent amount of Guild Wars defenses. Of course, there are substitutes for her and like other things that people are using, but Cerise has proven to be pretty strong. So a popular defense that's been used is Cerise plus Arby plus somebody else like, you know, a Ravi, another damage dealer that's not an ice type, has been, you know, proven to be pretty good. So I believe the popular one is this one right here. Is the one of the go-tos. But you know, any 2 damage dealers really work as long as they complement each other and they have strong S1s to work with Cerise's, dual attack thing. So Cerise plus plus Ravi plus Violet, or Ravi plus Landy, or a Ravi who I don't have, plus, somebody else too, right? As long as stuff like that you have, she's going to do some pretty good work. And then you have arena defense. So, right now, in EU at least, Cerise isn't really a arena defense hero right now, at least in the top, top teams. She's still decent in it. It's just that, units like Ran, Rem, Polita, stuff like that have just taken over on arena defense. It's really hard to break in. You have to do something like extremely good for your defense to make it to, a top arena defense team right now. As you have to counter very specific things in the format. And unfortunately, Cerise is a little bit too easy to counter on a 4-on-4 when you're on an AI. On a 3-on-3, it's different on Guild Wars because you have one less option as the attacker to try to counter everybody on the team, which is why she works better there. But on the, she's a little bit more abusable on the arena defense format. So even though, lower down, so, maybe, Challenger and lower, she's still probably fine. Once you start really pushing the Champion Plus, I would say she's going to start falling off right around there. So, just something to think about if you're thinking about arena defense. And opposite to, there's going to be World Arena, or RTA. She has proven to be pretty flexible in what kind of draft you can bring her in. So, Cleavers have used her as openers. Of course, anti-cleave for her speed. She's been used in standard drafts just because her S1 can really do a lot of damage with bruiser, stuff like that. She's been used in control drafts because of her speed down, the restrict, the stun, stuff like that too. So she definitely fits a lot of playstyles. And, it just depends on how you gear her and the direction you're going in. So if you just see her and think, oh, she's a cleave unit, that's a little bit short-sighted because, like I said, she can be used in a lot of different drafts. Now, the catch is that at the moment, she doesn't really excel in any type of draft, right? She's a good choice in almost everything, on paper at least. But just another unit that's something a little bit better, right? Like Ran is a little bit better, in the Caesarea Cleave, right? Or maybe a Sage Ball, something like that. Might be, or an A Tywin. Might be a little bit better for control, or Ida, right? Or for anti-cleave, we'll get to, her anti-cleave competition in a moment here, right? But a unit that's gonna be a little bit better maybe for that. In standard, right? Maybe you can't really give up a damage dealer or a tank spot for Cerise in that type of draft either, right? So there's always a type of what is it called? A cost to picking her, where right now a lot of times isn't worth it to take her over somebody else, especially when that other unit is just better usually. But she has been proven to be a pretty good fallback overall, which is definitely worth to think about for the future. Right now, honestly, fallbacks are not super important since the best units are just so much better than the second best units at the moment. But, maybe that will change. I don't know. And finally here for Cerise, we'll go over my Cerise right here. Again, this is built for PVE basically, that can do decent in PvP if I want to bring her in. So see your gear right here. I have some imprints in. So my molas right now are effect chance on the S3 all the way down, cooldown to S2, and I do have points in her S1 because I did this when she was the best unit in the game, which was a while ago. She's so good, of course. Don't think that she's not a good unit, because she is definitely a good unit, It's just that she's not a busted unit anymore by any means, but she is still solid. So my stats are right here. Again, this is mostly for PvE. This kind of gear I tossed onto her. So not the fastest, right? But, you know, she has some, you know, okay stats, right? I do have Miss Con Fee on her. Unfortunately, if you miss this artifact from the Guilty Kid collab, you will have to wait probably a couple of months before it comes back in order to pick it up again. This is her best in slot for most content though, so you know, definitely worth having. Of course, there is also Guiding Light, which we will also go over very quickly because there isn't any real introduction right now. But Guiding Light, of course, it will grant stealth on the first turn and have a chance to give stealth to the holder at the end of every turn for 2 turns. Stealth will reduce AoE damage that the holder takes by 50%. It also makes it that they can be targeted by single target attacks, of course, which is really good. It's what made Landy, well, one of the reasons why Landy became such a menace. And it's good, definitely, on units that, you know, maybe you want to build them a little bit slower with, like, maybe more bulk. And maybe they don't always take the first turn. Maybe not, you know, positive that your speed is going to be good enough to fight other opponents. Guiding Light might be an artifact that does a decent job for you. No matter who you are, though, if you don't have this artifact, you definitely pick up at least one of them from the powder shop with 240 powder when it comes out. So, you know, of course, maxing it is going to be a, you know, probably a pretty good thing to do also. All right, and now for her competition, Peira.
May you be punished by our rage. New rules are built on the blood of the preceding era.
So, see your stats right here. Right away, you'll see 128 speed definitely jumps out over everything else. Honestly, I think a lot of people are going to ignore everything else but this number right here. But in case you're not one of those players, you know, air attack, not bad health. Her defense is really bad, like most thieves, obviously. Effectiveness imprint, so she's 18 base effectiveness right here. You know, and that's basically what it's going to be. So definitely a fast character. Remember, Cerise was like 122, so definitely going to be, you know, maybe a better speed contest than Cerise. 128 is the second fastest in the game. I believe Kayron and Ran are 129, and they're the 2 fastest units. So Peira, 1 behind both of them. Punishing Blade is her S2. It's a AoE. It will decrease buff durations by 1 turn, so not a strip. So it's a 1 turn. So it basically does the same thing as what Cerise does on her S3, only instead it will restrict them also and make them unable to be buffed for 2 turns. So instead of unbuffable, instead of speed down, which Cerise gives, it is unbuffable. And depending on what you're fighting, you know, maybe the unbuffable is going to be better. Unbuffable, like, and speed down are both pretty strong debuffs. Speed down is definitely a lot better in PvE because most bosses can't be unbuffable most of the time. And in PvP, it really depends. This one, however, will grant an extra turn to the caster, so she can use, you know, of course, another skill. And that also means that this 5-turn cooldown on this skill right here, which is honestly really long. Remember, Cerise's cooldowns are pretty low for what she does. You know, it's gonna make this like a little bit less bad. Now, the S3 Pack Hunt is a very interesting ability. So it will increase the attack of all allies except for her, and also grant the caster, so herself, stealth, escort, and a barrier for 3 turns, which is a pretty long time. Stealth, I explained what it did before. It makes so you can't be targeted by single target attacks, and you take half damage from AoE. the barrier, of course, is a barrier, and the barrier is proportional to the caster's level, which is interesting. So it'll be a flat amount. We don't know what it is yet, but until the level cap, changes, if it does ever, it's always gonna be the same amount. So no matter what gear you have, it'll always be the same, which is, both good and bad, because if gear ever gets better, it means the barrier gets worse, and you have really no ways to improve it. But it also means that you can be a lot more flexible in your stat attributions and don't have to worry about the barrier strength, right? So, both pros and cons to having it like this. Escort, though, is worth talking about. So, this is what it does. It's basically a stronger Aureus. So the target takes 30% of the damage suffered by all allies. And of course, like any other damage distribution effect is granted, all the strongest is applied, so it doesn't, stack with Aureus, anything like that. And since it is stronger than Aureus, it will take preference over it, but it will stack with things like, say, Adamant Shield, right? Or any, like, damage reduction artifacts. This is a damage transfer, or as it says here, distribution effect. So what happens basically is that you do this, you get this huge buff against AoE attacks. You probably get a pretty good barrier, and you just take less damage. Overall, maybe not less damage, but you share the damage in a way that helps your other units survive, which is really interesting on a thief that is, not really bulky at all. So we'll have to see how this really works. In theory, the barrier is definitely big enough to take a couple of hits. It can definitely be a pretty strong ability. And now the S1, Wolven Claw. So it is a stun on the S1 with the Molas. It's going to be 40% at base, so which is the same as Maid Chloe. And just think about every single time Maid Chloe and bonk, stun, bonk, stun, bonk, stun. And just think to yourself, like, why was it necessary to put a stun at 40% on an S1, right? Like, why? However, this one is a little bit better. So, when the caster has a barrier, which means that, and remember, she gives herself a barrier, right, with her S3. She increases her effect chance by 25% on this. So it goes from a 40% to 65% chance to stun, right? And then you can also soul burn it for 10 souls for 100%, which is really good for 10 souls, obviously. This is a really, really strong S1, in my opinion. And it synergizes really, really well with the rest of the kit also. So definitely a overall powerful kit. Of course, we also have the artifact, which has taken some, I see, liberties in her design, right? A couple of them. But Goblet of Oath, so at max level, it will have a effectiveness increase of 30%, and after using a non-attack skill, which she does have on the rest 3, decreases cooldowns by 1 turn. Can only be activated 3 times per battle. I don't know. With this skill cooldown by 1 turn, I'm not sure if this is the, just the S3, or, like, the S2 also. It's probably only the skill 3. It's still, interesting. What's good about this is that you can have this at plus 15, right? And it still does the same thing, basically. You just get a little more effectiveness going up, right? But this the important skill doesn't change based on this level, which is really, really nice, right? Because there are too many artifacts in the game that need to be like plus 30 to be usable, right? This one can be used at plus 15 and still be, like, perfectly fine, right? Of course, you gain more stats at plus 30, but hey, not everybody can chase, random artifacts. Okay, so now for the comparison and which one do I recommend you pick up. So Cerise, more of an all-rounded type hero, decent in PvP, right? So a good backup pick maybe to Ran for your cleave teams, decent and a bunch of stuff for World Arena, like control teams, bruiser teams, stuff like that, but definitely not the best pick in a lot of scenarios, but still a strong pick in a lot of scenarios, right? Good in expeditions, decent in guild wars, okay in normal arena. So definitely can be used on a lot of different types of content, and is somewhat flexible in the type of gear you can give her. Just depends on how you want to use her. Peira is a little more focused, I believe. Definitely gonna really want to go either more the anti-cleave or maybe the cleave route. I don't think she's gonna be like the best cleave unit, but I do think that as a secondary option after Ran, she might be, you know, she's probably gonna be better than Cerise in that case. As an anti-cleave unit, it gets a little bit interesting because, yes, she is a speed contest where the enemy team has to worry about her being faster than them. But if she's not faster than them, she can still maybe do something with her S2 and the S3, giving her the barrier and the damage here, all of that. Make it so that your other units have a little more bulk overall. We'll have to see how this works out, because if she doesn't take the first turn, her base defenses and stuff, again, are really, really bad. So, and if she wants to, you know, speed contest, there's not really a lot of room to move stats into her poor already base, you know, bulk. So, you know, we'll have to see how that works out right there. If you can only get one of these two heroes for some reason and you had to choose, it's honestly pretty hard to. So, Cerise is a limited unit, which means you can only get her when her banner is being run, and besides that, you can't get her any other way. Limited is kind of meaningless. Now, not meaningless, right? But in the context of the game right now, there are so many RGB heroes in the game that your chance of pulling a specific RGB from outside their banner is really low. So you should honestly treat every single RGB as like a pseudo-limited, right? It's like some units, RGB units, have gone over a year without being rerun, right? So just think about that. Limited units are rerun at least once a year about, like clockwork. So you always know that eventually they'll come back around a certain time. You're never sure with these RGB units, which, yes, you might get lucky and get one from, you know, a book or from like an event, right? But I would not count on that. Collab units are different. They're limited too, but since Milegate doesn't own them, we're not positive if they come back or not, right? Even though so far, every single collab has been rerun. So now, if you can only get one of these units, I would ask myself, what is my goal, right? If I'm like a newer to mid-game player, I want to start doing more expos, right? I still want to do like a bunch of more content. Cerise is probably a little bit better for you. She's definitely a more of like a neutral type pickup that can be flexed into a lot more things that you're going to be doing. Peira is definitely more focused in either like cleave / anti-cleave. And she probably requires better gear and more specific gear than Cerise does too. So if you have like really good speed gear though, and you know you're not a cleaver, right? Like you have good speed gear, but you don't really have like enough of it to go around to make a cleave team. But you still want to fight those like annoying cleave teams because they are everywhere right now. Peira might be okay for you, right? It really just depends on how your like gear state and your plans are for the future in the game. Again, everything on Peira is, you know, speculation, of course, but I definitely can make my guess. Alright, so that's it. Hope this has been informative and help you plan on how you're going to spend your bookmarks. Don't forget that Cerise and Peira are going to overlap a little bit, so you will get to see Peira in action before Cerise leaves, and that is definitely going to let you take a better choice, right, overall for your personal account. Now, be ready for the Lionheart Sirmia video that will be out in probably a couple of days. Also go over the new EEs also there, so be on the lookout for that. Again, thank you everybody. I'm Wild Neptune. It's been a good one. Nep out.